Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Abhishek Kaushik back with episode 2 of Pack Talks, where we bring in the voices that you ask for. So, this time I have with me an industry expert who doesn't need any introduction, a senior data scientist with Walmart, having an extensive experience into not just data science but into machine learning. And Karun is known as more of a data science wizard over the whole of the LinkedIn. He's one of the top most LinkedIn top voice. So, welcome, Karun. Hi.
Thanks, Abhishek. I really appreciate that introduction. Yeah, glad to be here. Glad to see what kind of questions pop up in this series and hopefully help a few folks land roles in DS in the coming year. Yeah.
Definitely. So this was one of the hot selling and I would say trending topics that I came across, and I still remember when I discussed this with you that this is something people nowadays are facing challenges with. So before we get started, how are things there in US? And tell me something about your experience, how you got into data science before we move
Sure.
ahead.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, things in US are going pretty good. Fingers crossed. Not much to complain about, but yeah, the work's good. Especially like when you have like a good team, you're working sort of like a company that has good culture. It's always good. In terms of like getting into DS, I sort of followed a little bit of the traditional path. I came to US for my master's in data science at Carnegie Mellon. I would say I came during the last of the peak hiring period in 2019. 2019, early 2020 is sort of when COVID hit. That's the time I was looking for my first internship. I did get an internship during that time, but because of COVID, it got rescinded, and sort of had to scramble in like late February, March, which was, I mean, around that time, everybody usually has internships. So had
Yeah.
to scramble a little bit, but luckily enough, was able to reach out to a few folks, get some referrals, and luckily got into Amazon. I had to level down. I did have 4 years of experience when I came to US, but because I was short on time, I leveled down, got into entry level low role at as a data science intern, L4 at Amazon.
Yeah.
Worked very unhealthy and sort
Okay.
of I wouldn't recommend sort of long hours
Okay.
so that I could prove that I sort of deserved like an L5 role. And my manager was recognized the effort. He gave me like extra interviews after the end of the internship to
Okay.
check if I could level up. I was able to clear those interviews, and from my internship was able to level up and come back as like a L5 data scientist in Amazon. So yeah, a bit of a rough ride in the beginning, but was able to land what I think was like a fairly good role as a DS.
It's worth the waiting and it's worth putting in the effort, as I would
Yep,
say.
definitely, definitely.
Okay. So Karun, we received a lot of questions from the audience who filled up the form.
Mhm,
And so before we move ahead, I did some research. And according to my research, I would say a report by Upwork says
mhm,
that 60% of the hiring managers and the recruiters who are based out of USA find it difficult to fill in the data science and the data analytics roles post-COVID.
mhm,
So this is something. So this happens to be one such report which I was reading it upon, and on the basis of this report,
mhm,
one question which I have it from my side before we move ahead is data science and machine learning still a viable career in the next 2 to 3 years to come with the advent of AI?
mhm.
And secondly, the second part to it is that how exactly has the job market been shifted from the last 3 years until now? So of what it used to be in 2022 and
Mhm,
21
mhm,
till 2025, obviously there are changes and the transitions. So
mhm.
how exactly has it been transitioned from the post covid till 2025 November?
Got it. Maybe I'll start with the second question first, sort of
Okay.
like how the job market has transitioned, just because I feel like it's a good way to break into like the next change with all of the AI stuff coming up. So up until I would say 2018, 2017, data science was sort of a very technical role where if you're able to sort of build fairly good models, and when I'm talking about fairly good models, I'm talking about linear regression, logistic regression models that you can optimize very well. It takes a huge amount of time, and that technical knowledge was very valuable. But around, I would say, 2016, 2017, XGBoost, one of the models, sort of became very popular. 2017 was when this paper, which almost everybody knows at this point, called Attention is All You Need, came in, and transformers became very popular.
Yeah.
And we'll see that this pattern is again repeating with LLMs, but
Okay.
the amount of effort you needed to take to build out a model that could work well, that could perform well on your model metrics, the amount of technical knowledge you needed sort of dropped, because just by like calling an XGBoost fit function on a couple of features, you could get pretty good performance. Similarly, just by
Get it.
fitting transform models on text, you could get pretty good performance. So all this knowledge about understanding the assumptions of linear regression, figuring out how to optimize regression models, all of that sort of became a little bit obsolete. Like nowadays,
Okay.
when I see like data scientists working on problems, the first thing they go to is like XGBoost. They skip over everything else. They're like, if we just fit
Okay.
a tree-based model, it'll probably give us best performance, and oftentimes it is true. We saw that huge shift. So that extreme technical focus, that requirement sort of went away, and we saw hiring managers wanting data scientists to understand that their job is no longer just to build models, but it is to help business improve their
Yeah.
performance. So they wanted data scientists who understand the business, understand business metrics, understand like those problems, and are able to translate it into like an ML formulation. So, and I feel like that was like the main disconnect that's still going on in the market. Like I see mentees, right, like they optimized this model and got like a performance, an AUC score of this. Like when a hiring manager sees that, if they're a technical hiring manager, sure, they understand that this is a very technical
Yeah.
project. But so what? Like they want to hire people who they believe will help them improve the business. And you have shown no history of having improved the business. You only have shown history of building
Yeah.
models. So now that disconnect sort of prevents the hiring manager from taking a chance on you. But if in your resume you write about, hey, I built this model that actually improved the business by a certain percentage, you know that how much it improved, then the hiring manager realizes that, hey, this person has improved the business building
Yeah.
models, so now I can actually take a chance on it. So
So
that is sort
yeah.
of the disconnect post COVID, I would say, because building models became a lot more easy with transformers and XGBoost. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Uh,
I mean, the way I understand it, it's not just about the effort, it's also about the effort plus what exactly the outcome can be expected out of
yep.
it
Yep.
nowadays.
Exactly.
Because yeah.
Yep. The impact, the
And
business impact that you have. And
business, how yeah.
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, no. So I could understand it, how exactly one is able to scale the business out of, by framing or designing a model or any of that
Yep.
sort.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you build a model. So what does that actually mean for the business? Just showing that technical proficiency no longer suffices. Like as a data scientist, it's our job to help improve the business. So that was sort of like the shift I think we saw. Like 2017 was when transformer revolutions began. So by
Yeah.
2019, 2020, even though we saw sort of see it as like a COVID impact, it's I sort of see it as it's just like these XGBoost and transform models became
Yeah.
popular, and because of that, the requirement sort of leveled up. And it's the same thing I think with LLMs. With LLMs, again, you have like this revolutionary model like transformers, like XGBoost, where the need to be able to fit and fine tune models and productionize models is sort of coming down again. So again, the best way to sort of tackle the job market is to lean into how you can use these to improve the business. So and it's very
Get it.
similar to what I would say, like if you take the typical career of a data scientist, they would start or maybe just to simplify it, let's take the typical career of an engineer. They would start on when they start in corporate, they would start on working like simple features, so just logic into code, make sure the code is well optimized. So
Okay.
that's how an entry level engineer starts. Then after that they go into mid level, where they actually have to design systems. So they need to figure out APIs, databases, how the calls are going to be made as sync versus sync. So that's mid level.
Okay.
Then the senior level engineers sort of figure out that these are probably the business problems that are most worth solving, convert it into engineering requirements, and those requirements are sort of going down. So what we are seeing is, with the improvements in tech, the the sort of hyper focus for entry level requirements is no longer needed. So entry level now becomes a little bit more towards mid level requirements, just like we saw in
Get the point.
engineering. Yeah, so just like we saw in engineering, initially you just needed lead code, but now you need lead code, HLD, LLD, system design, because just writing code is no longer
No, no.
that valuable. It's a lot more easier to just write code. So you saw the shift in requirements moving from that entry level to the mid level. So now the mid level becomes the entry level requirement. Similarly in
Oh,
data science, yeah. So
okay.
similarly in data science, the requirement was just being able to build and fit and fine tune models. That was like the entry level requirement. The mid level requirement is being able to design these systems, how the feature engineering pipeline is going to be, how the training is going to be, what the guardrails are going to be like, how we are going to retrain the model. So that system design becomes the mid level requirement. And the high sort of like senior staff level requirement becomes, what are the business problems worth solving? How do we translate those problems into ML problems? And how do we
Get
sort
it.
of circulate it down? So now the entry level requirement has sort of gone away because of all these AI.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean your job goes away. It's just that, just like in engineering, we saw the requirement shift from just lead code to HLD, LLD, and lead code. In data science, you're going to see that, hey, fitting and fine tuning the models isn't that valuable by itself. So now the entry level requirement will shift to the mid level, which is like building out these pipelines. And even as like AI
Understood.
progresses, you'll again shift these requirements. So it's just that you will move further and further up this pipeline.
So it's all about the expectations and the
Yep.
reality of an industry has
Mhm.
moved from one level to second level, but
Yep.
somehow somewhere the candidate or any such person who is preparing himself or herself into the data science world, getting something for himself, is
Yep.
something which might be outdated or might not be relevant to what the companies are all into.
Exactly.
Practical experiment.
Mostly like that. It's just that now you need the entry level, plus you need
Yeah,
the mid level to crack a role.
yeah,
So
exactly.
you just need to, and it's when people think of it like that, it's like, oh, I need to learn so much more. You can see it that way, but you also have to realize the entry level stuff, it's so much more easier to learn also because of all
Yeah.
these agentic coding tools and everything. So you can learn the entry level faster than you used to, which is why the requirements shifting to the mid level as well.
So that moves me from one step to the another one. So one such thing which I want to know, and our audience also wants to know, is that what exactly are the, I would say, the roles which are being hired into the data science?
Mhm.
Are they more of like the research oriented? Are they more of like operational based? Are they more of like
Mhm.
coding based? That's
Mhm.
the first part. And second part to that is that with the advent of AI, Gen AI,
Mhm.
are these roles getting affected? If yes, how?
Mhm.
And when I say the usage of AI and Gen AI, so I'm talking about from both the perspective, from the usage perspective as well as from the point of view of development. In a way that
Mhm.
I'll share one example. So there was a time that I was working on a project wherein
Mhm.
we were making use of Chat GPT, the paid
Mhm.
version. So what we did was we bought the Chat GPT, the paid version. And so I had this idea, and I took the help of one of the developers from our team. So he framed and designed the GPT model inside the whole of the company, that he made separate, I would say, sets, like the Excel analyzer set. Then there's a
Mhm.
PowerPoint set. So what you need to
Mhm.
do is just open your GPT. All those models are visible.
Mhm.
Give us the query. Give GPT the query, and
Mhm.
then the answers. What you want will be framed. So
Yep.
I repeat the question. Sorry.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
what data science roles are getting hired nowadays?
Mhm.
Nowadays,
Mhm.
in US, are they research oriented? Are they coding based? Are they operational based? Or a blend of all of these? And
Mhm.
does AI and Gen AI, with the advent of AI and Gen AI, are these roles and the hirings getting affected? If yes, why and how? If
Mhm.
no, then obviously it's a good thing for the audience and for everyone.
Got it.
Yeah.
So in terms of like who, what type of roles are we seeing hiring for? The most common one is sort of these what we call A/B testing, experimentation, causal inference roles, which we club under the term product data scientist. So it's essentially how is the product being impacted by a certain change that we want to make. A/B testing, when people think of A/B testing, they sort of just think the traffic is coming and we just split it into A and B and we just measure the difference, which is by and large still in a lot of ways how the industry still does A/B testing. But it's just that um, uh, to make sure that the treatment group is actually comparable to your control group, there are a lot more nuanced and like intelligent approaches to make sure, because at end of the day what you're trying to see is if the treatment is causing a certain kind of impact, so that sort of like
Yes.
causal inference. There is a lot more new research coming in that space. So if you want to think about it, just think about it as product data scientist equals causal inference, and I need to deep dive into that field to land a product data science role. It's sort of like in my perspective, the most common DS role right now in the market, or what I would say the most in demand role that's being hired for across industries. The second is sort of the applied data science role. It's sort of the role that I
Okay.
work in, where you're expected to build models that are customer facing. So you build models and you put them in production, and the model actually makes decisions like recommendation systems is sort of like the common one. Whereas in product, it's more about with the feature launch, did we actually improve the product or not? In applied data
Yeah.
science, you have a model that's actually
Okay.
interacting or changing the
Okay.
experience for the customer. So applied data science typically requires a little bit more coding because you have code that sits in production. You want to make sure it's good code, maintainable code, optimized code. So it has a bit more coding. It's fitting and fine tuning your models. So the typical, when we think of ML, that's sort of what an applied data scientist might do. In some companies, it goes by machine learning engineer as well.
Yeah.
It really depends. Some companies just call all of this data scientists, and they just sort of
Okay.
like depending upon the team, you do different things.
Get
So,
it.
but generally, we sort of call it product data science, applied data science. Research data science is a little bit different. It's sort of like the development of the new models. So you can think of
Okay.
folks in OpenAI building out the next ChatGPT. Those are folks that we typically term research data scientists. So they work again a little bit like an applied data scientist in the sense that but at a much higher level, in the sense that they read papers, they're
Okay.
actually inventing new techniques and new models. But at the end of the day, they are working on building models that will eventually go out in production and hopefully
Okay.
change like customer experience. And the last one, the new one, is sort of it I would say it's more of falls under the engineering bracket, which is like AI engineer.
Yeah.
It's more
Okay.
about figuring out how to fit all of these LLM pipelines together in an optimized manner, where you're using the least amount of tokens so that your ROI is maximized. So it's about understanding vector DBs. It's about context engineering. It's about prompt engineering.
Yeah.
It's a little bit about figuring out whether when to go for an LLM versus an SLM. So yeah, a few of those things. Everything to do with I guess language models. And maybe I guess I haven't seen the requirement pop up, but maybe even vision models. So yeah, those I would say are the four main roles that we seem to be we see hiring for.
Okay. So, Karun, before we move ahead, so since you
Mm.
mentioned about the language models, which happens to be your favorite language model, if you can share.
I just recently started experimenting a little bit more with Claude, so it
Okay.
seems to be pretty powerful in terms of like coding. I'm a fairly late adopter of Cursor.
Okay.
I liked having a little bit more control where I could see like the code in ChatGPT and sort of make very small changes from ChatGPT code to my code rather than having Cursor sort of take over and write everything for me.
Yeah.
But I'm accepting the loss of control nowadays. And yeah, a cursor with Claude seems to be like a pretty good way to get started in a project. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I'll keep this noted for our audience if they ask, if they reach out to me post the live session. Okay, so Karun, one such problem, which, because whether somebody's a tech guy, somebody's a non-tech guy, that one really faces is that they're unable to decide when it comes to learning from the mathematics and the statistics point of view,
Mhm,
from the perspective of data science as well as machine learning. The
mhm.
battle of Python versus R is
Okay,
something
okay.
that even me coming from a non-tech background, I've also done data analytics earlier, even nowadays. But this
Mhm,
is one such thing that I always question, I always think, which is one such language that one should start from, and
mhm,
which one of them happens to be like a powerful set of, just like in programming languages, people say
mhm,
learn from Python. Python
mhm.
is the key. So that's like a powerhouse. So
Yeah.
between Python and R, from statistics point of view, what's your, share some insights and share if you have like any uh, projects that you have taken care of, or any experiences if you want to.
Got it. In my experience, the war was over a couple of years back, and I think Python won just because of the humongous amount of packages that are there within like the
Okay.
Python environment and how well it's integrated into Spark in terms of like PySpark, so that you can actually
Yeah.
scale a lot of your models out to large data sets. So I'm a firm believer that there is not much use in, like, if you are somebody who's brand new, there might not be a strong reason to pick up R. Python seems to be the way to go. Yeah. In terms of like
Okay.
maybe the newer languages, in terms of like productionizing code, I do still see folks rely on C++ just in terms of like optimization. And when a lot of folks who are
Yeah.
working in like a Google search work in like C++ just because they need that kind of or they work on those kind of models with such latency. But otherwise, uh, Python seems to be the best intro to data science and building products. Having a foundation in a very well optimized language like C++ also seems to be a good thing to have. Yeah.
Yeah, C, C++. So, I mean, C is just like the mother of all languages, C++
Yep.
just like the father of. So, even I got to know that C++ is used in the
Mhm,
machine learning part,
mhm,
some part of it, like the CUDA
mhm,
development, something
mhm,
which relates with NVIDIA's languages.
mhm,
So, Karun, like I know that you have been guiding a lot of people who wants to land a job majorly into data science and ML. So, from a portfolio perspective,
mhm,
how significant and important it is for a data science engineer as well as an ML engineer to make his or her portfolio as attractive as it can be for a US based recruiter or for a US based, I would say, hiring manager. And what are
mhm,
the key steps which one needs to follow? I mean, except, making it from GitHub, everyone is doing GitHub, everyone is
mhm,
making a portfolio, even if it is of Power BI dashboard. But
mhm,
something which stands apart, because nowadays you just mentioned the hiring trends which were there in 2021 of what it is now in terms of
mhm.
scales, presentations. So what has been your journey, because you also get to interact with a lot of people and you also have been a hiring manager. So if you can share some insights and your journey
For
before
sure.
even now. Yeah.
For sure. Just to clarify, I've been part of the hiring process. I've been a hiring manager.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of like mentoring, yes, I have helped a few folks land roles here and there. So what I think works is like having a good set of business problems that you've worked on. So maybe I don't know if I can, but maybe let me just share my screen. Let me know if my screen is visible.
Sure.
Um, I think
uh,
it should pop up.
yes, I've added it.
Okay, okay, cool, awesome.
Yeah.
So in terms of like in terms of like how you present your projects, any sort of like basic site, even if it's GitHub, I think it's fine. Even if it's something simple on Wix, I think it's fine. It's more about picking the projects. So in terms of like picking
Okay.
projects, what I think is relevant. Um, So, how do you actually pick good projects in Kaggle? So, if you go to the competition section in Kaggle, And I'm just gonna search filters. Let's say completed competitions. We go for completed competitions because
Okay.
all competitions have this thing called a discussion board where people share sort of how they attempted this problem, and it's a good way of sort of getting started. You don't want to start with nothing like that. In getting over that inertia is sort of like the hardest thing to get over. So go to the competition section, search for the completed competitions, search by the reward, and you'll see a lot of competitions have like huge prize money. In my perspective, this prize money showcases the relevance of the business problem.
Okay.
These are like actual companies that are putting in actual price money to get these problems
Okay.
solved. So let's say if I want to crack a role in finance, I'm going to just look at finance, completed
Hmm.
projects sorted by reward. So these are actual problems like from Jane Street, real-time market data forecasting. There's an actual data set, things that
Okay.
business actually cares about. Credit risk modeling, again, a very common very common problem within finance, and an actual data set with like 100K price money. So these are actual business relevant problems. So the first thing you need to focus on, pick business relevant problems. Second, pick data sets that are popular and common in the field. Like if you pick like a very niche one and you talk about it in your resume, your hiring manager might not be able to connect with it. But if you talk about a Jane Street real-time market data forecasting, they'll be able to understand it. Or Two Sigma financial modeling, they'll be able to understand that. I mean, if hopefully if they're familiar with the field, they'll be able to understand it. It's the same thing like in e-commerce, um, retail, let's say. So M5 forecasting, M5 is this time series forecasting competition, which sort of
Hmm.
sets the benchmark for time
Okay.
series forecasting. And I think we reached like M7 or M8 by now. But this is Walmart's, a few of the stores within Walmart, its sales data that was given for
Hmm.
this time series forecasting competition. And yeah, it sort of is actual benchmark data sets, actual problems. Same thing, H&M gave their recommendation system data set to build our recommendation systems. So these are business relevant problems that you need to work on. The next thing, let's say if you pick a project, before diving into it, the first thing you need to check is go into the discussion board and search for solution. So if you look at it, these are people discussing how they got their first place solution. They got their
Okay.
sixth place solution. So all of this, what this does is it gives you an idea about what you need to develop. So the kind of like architecture, feature engineering, modeling. Don't copy it, and you won't be able to copy it because the code is rarely given, and even if the code is given, it's like very horrendous because they just need to win the competition, so they don't write it well. So it's not code that you can put on your portfolio anyway. But it gives you a starting
Sorted.
point. It gives you an idea about what works, what kind of pipelines you need to build, and it gives you a solid understanding about how models are actually built in this kind of business problem. So this is
So
a
what
good
I can
way to get prepared.
understand,
Mhm.
yeah. So what I can understand, like you've been sharing this, the Kaggle thing is that all these the problem statements which are given. So these are like real world problems
Yep.
which the company is facing. So it could be like
Mhm.
Walmart, it could be any other company. They might
Mhm.
have posted a problem that we might want to anything of that sort. That we
Mhm.
might want to increase the usage of GPUs while keeping our
Mhm.
cost as low as possible, suggest
Mhm.
the ways how can we train our anything of that sort. So real
Yep.
world life
Mhm.
problem,
Yep.
and anybody who is signing up on these platforms
Mhm.
can be able to deliver their solutions.
Yes.
And obviously once it's accepted, not accepted, then they can introduce, I mean, obviously it will add value in their portfolio, even if
Yep.
obviously even if the code is not that good, but it's about the efforts and the way any individual thinks.
Exactly, exactly. So this has like a benchmark. I mean, these are like benchmark data sets. Most people in the field will understand or be aware of these data sets. You have like a specific metric that you need to evaluate your model on. So you can mention how much, what kind of performance you got on this metric, and you can compare it with the rank one solution. Like how well does it compare to the top solution? Like are you within 10% of it, are you within 5% of it, or 1% of it, something like that? Or are you actually beating the top rank solution? So those are like things that give you a, when a hiring manager is reading that, hey, you beat the top rank solution on Kaggle, it's giving them a sense of the quality of the quality of what you build, as opposed to, like, let's say you say that you got an F1 score of 95. That doesn't mean anything. Like, is that like a good score to get? A hiring manager would be hard pressed to determine that. But if you say that, hey, I beat the top ranked solution on Kaggle, that's like it's a relative marker that helps HM assess that, hey, this is like good work that they're doing.
Okay, so once once an individual is done with his or her portfolio, so obviously the next step that comes into play is making and optimizing one's resume and CV. So, how should one be able to, obviously, because so many changes are there in terms of technology, even in terms of, I would say, sorry, even in terms of, I would say, resume layouts, and I would say so many things are there. And with the advent of AI, people are just, copying, pasting. So, if I want to apply, if I'm searching something for myself into the data
Mhm,
science world,
mhm,
and I want to optimize my resume and CV. So,
mhm,
what exactly are the key metrics I need to take into consideration before, designing my CV? First
mhm,
part, and second part is, uh, how necessary is it for somebody to change his or her CV while applying for a job? So, for instance, I'm applying for a data science job at Walmart, and I'm
mhm,
applying for a data science job in some other company as well.
mhm,
Say for that matter, FedEx or DHL,
mhm,
obviously. So how required is it for me to change my CV? Should one do that? Should one, or it's more of like that, simply just change the keywords into the skill section and just take the help of GPT or any other tool? What
mhm,
happens to be my score, ATS score? So
mhm,
what's your take on that? And please throw some I mean, share your instances, because you might also be reviewing CVs, so
mhm.
that it helps our users in getting first hand view. How should
Got it.
they make and improvise their CV and resume?
Makes sense. So in terms of like writing resumes, the first thing that I look for, like if I'm reviewing resumes, is um, in the bullets, each bullet should help answer three questions. What was the problem? What is the technical details of solution? And what is the impact? For instance, it could be like, hey, I built this customer churn prediction model. So the business problem is churn prediction using like XGBoost, and I did like some kind of feature engineering. So there is like a certain amount of technical depth. And this helped improve targeted marketing efforts ROI by a certain amount. So that there is like a clear metric. So all three have to be in every bullet. Now I know it sounds like that would make the bullet very long, but if you take some time, it can fit within like 2 lines of your resume, and that's sort of like the expectation. I don't want to have to read one bullet and see that, hey, the technical details is missing, but then you're telling me that, oh, the technical details was in the next bullet. If you just go there, you'll be able to read it. Typically recruiters, hiring managers won't spend a lot of time on your resume. So um, if like they're looking for something and it's not there, you can't expect
Yeah.
them to, hey, I'll go to the next bullet and I'll see it. No. So within the bullet, all three questions have to be answered: problem, solution, impact, PSI. um, the next thing, sort of in terms of like, once you write out all your bullets, the next thing in terms of like applying to roles, do you need to tailor your resume for each and every role? In my opinion, no. What I recommend mentees doing is create themed versions of their resume. For
Okay.
instance, I had projects in forecasting, recommendation systems, and mostly e-commerce. So I had like a forecasting specific resume. I had a
Okay.
Rexis specific resume, and I had an e-com resume where I had a lot of like prediction problems, forecasting problems, Rexis problems, all of those mixed together. Um, so whenever I see a job description, I would just pick whichever resume I feel like was the most appropriate one for that role. And like you mentioned, within the skill section, I would just make sure that whatever
Okay.
keywords are there, I think within the JD that's missing within my skill section, if they're applied to me, I make sure to add it and I hit apply. So the main thing with this is that you don't spend a huge amount of time rewriting your bullets. And in this current job market, I think you can't do that, because if you keep rewriting your resume, you just burn yourself out very fast.
Yes.
So not being just updating the skill section and hitting apply saves you a lot of time. It saves you from burnout. And you need that because we're seeing candidates take a lot more time to land roles in the current market. So you'll be needing to apply to, let's say, um, 40 to, let's say, 50 referred applications per week
Okay.
for like quite a few weeks. We're talking 6 to 12 weeks to maybe land a role. So to do that, you need to build a process that doesn't burn you out.
Exactly. And adding to what I was asking about, so one important question, and this is also, I mean, amongst my personal interest as well, how important is it that does the length of a resume, like one page, 2 page, does it matter? Because this is something I even after 7 years I have not been able to figure it out whether it matters or
Uh,
not.
I think you can keep your resume as long as you want. It's just that probably the first few bullets are what's gonna make or break your resume. So if you're thinking that, hey, I'll write more because the content later on is also relevant, uh, probably you need to understand that nobody's gonna check the second page. The what
Okay.
Why we keep saying one page is so that you will keep only relevant content in your resume for that particular role. When it goes to 2 pages, a lot of like non-relevant content sort of comes up. So yeah, I would still say keep it one page so that it's filled with relevant content, because the first bullet, maybe like the
Yeah.
first two bullets, is what's going to determine whether you get a call back or not.
Okay. So, what I could understand is for our users, keep it one page, only one
Yep.
page.
Yep.
Unless you have like an experience of 10 years, 15 years, then it's a different thing, obviously.
Even then, I would say like nobody's gonna read all the multiple pages. Like they're gonna make the decision in the first 2 to 3 bullets. So even then, keep it like maybe one page. If you have like
One
a lot
page.
of different experiences, you can team it out
Okay.
into different resumes. So that way, you can still keep it one page. Yeah.
Okay. So moving on from our CV shortlisting to the final stage, like if the resume of a candidate has been shortlisted and everything has been done, so now he or she moves into the very next stage, which is the interviewing stage. So how should majorly for the techie guys, and even for the non-techs as well, obviously. So after mastering over the data structures, data science, ML engineers, how should all these people and even the non-tech guys who are doing a career transition, how should they prepare for the behavior and the psychometric test nowadays? Because I've seen so many people so brilliant in coding into formulation of ML models, but somehow somewhere they are unable to clear the psychometric test, behavioral aspect of questions which are asked. So this is something, how should they prepare? Because it's more of like that, you have done 90% of the journey, you have cracked, it's just the 10%. And when it comes to behavioral questions, obviously you can't change. If I'm a left-handed person, I'm a left-handed person. I can't say that right-handed people are way much better than the left-handed people. I can't say that. So it will more of like pretending to say. So
Correct.
share your experience, because how you got into Walmart, how so that can be of any benefits to our users and the audience.
Sure. So behavioral questions are more about like and whether you took the time to understand what the company's culture is. So more often than not, every company has like certain principles that they expect to see in their employees. Like Amazon has their famous Amazon leadership principles. Like I think it's about 10 of them now. So you will essentially be assessed on different leadership principles, and the idea is to showcase that you have shown these leadership principles in your during your work, during your school, whatever it be, like being proactive, being curious, stuff like that. So more than changing yourself to fit the mold, I think it's a little bit more about taking the time to reflect on your career, to reflect on all your experiences, and pick out instances where you have actually shown this. It's just that you never called it being proactive or acting with
Okay.
integrity. You just never labeled it. It's just something that came naturally to you. So we
Yeah.
do a lot of these things. It's just that we do it very unconsciously. And the only thing we need to do is take out those instances, call out those instances, and write what we call star stories: situation, task, action, result.
Yeah.
Those star stories for them. So it's just a matter of like reflecting on your life so far. These are like very common, very basic principles that all of us do sort of showcase it unconsciously. And in terms of like prepping for behavioral, I can recommend like a lot of like good creators. I don't know if our chat works, but maybe I'll drop a few links later with you, Abhishek.
Yeah,
um,
definitely.
mhm.
Definitely.
And we can
Chat
maybe.
function, yeah, I've just got it. It's V Ne Gandhi. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, Varun is like a great creator on LinkedIn who talks specifically about behavioral interviews, which become more and more important as you move from entry to mid to senior. And yeah, it's just about having those stories, and showing that you really uh, think deeply about how you work, how you talk to people, how you plan, how you execute, showing that you're thinking about those things rather than maybe we just do it unconsciously, but showing that you think about this and you try and improve and optimize even those things.
So, I mean, like I'm also familiar with the star model. So,
Mhm,
but I mean, what I understand is that since you have also mentioned, because you get to interview a lot of people, that consciously or unconsciously, all of us do make use of this model. It's
mhm,
just that it might be due to the fact that it's not, probably in a way, it's not structured.
mhm,
Because the way it says is, first you need to elaborate and explain the situation, then what tasks for you took
mhm.
upon, took on your shoulders, then
Yep.
what action steps and what was the
Mhm,
results which were expected out
mhm,
of that. It's
mhm.
more of like we might be doing that in a day-to-day life.
Yes.
We might have not observed that,
Mhm.
but probably not in a structured way.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. So we like just like when I talk to a lot of mentees, they do a lot of these analysis, which comes naturally to them, where they're like segmenting the customers into different groups, and then they're measuring which ones to target. And I tell them, okay, this is like a specific analysis called RFM analysis that you're doing, where you're talking about how frequently the customer came in, how frequently they're using the platform, how much money they spent. So we call this a specific thing called RFM. So then that's when they strike it. Oh, this is like some kind of concept that exists in the industry. I just did it naturally because it made sense to me. But if you are able to understand that, hey, this is like a framework that exists, it showcases you are a SME. You think more about these things, and you're willing to like research, learn about how to optimize on these better down the line. So it's the same thing in behavior. You just need to understand that there are these frameworks that sometimes you use unconsciously, and improve on them.
Okay, and like you shared this link of Varun Negandhi. So
Mhm,
apart
mhm,
from this, I would like to ask you: would you like to share some resources wherein students, users, even people who want to make a career transition or want to learn something into data science and machine learning, how
mhm.
can they stay updated into today's competitive, fast, ever evolving landscape and ecosystem? So how can me or anyone stay updated? Any resources, any links, so that it can be of help to me. It gives me a boost, acts as a catalyst for me,
For sure, for
because
sure.
technology is changing at a very fast rate. What was relevant 3 months back, in the technological world, now it's just like a bombard of something else. So even if I learn something, I would get to know it's becoming obsolete. Now I have to learn this. So your take on that, resources, any links for that for our audience?
For sure, for sure. For me, how I keep up with it is again through LinkedIn. I have like a few creators that I follow. Aishwarya Naresh, who's an ex-Amazon, running a few courses within Maven, and it's like a tutor at like a couple of colleges. It's like a great resource to understand everything within the LLM and agent space. Aishwarya Srinivasan is another great creator who is yeah, I mean everybody in sort of like the Bay Area might be familiar with her. She's like 600,000 followers on LinkedIn, so she's like another
Okay.
great resource to understand everything
Okay.
that's going on within, I would say, everything ML and data science in general. Yeah, apart from that, in terms of like if you're looking to get up to date on data science specifically, another very popular blog is Daily Dose of Data Science.
Okay.
They have like a free version which sort of covers like daily updates, daily news updates. TLDR is again a very famous
Yeah.
sort of like newsletter, which I'm guessing a lot of people might already follow, but they have like an ML specific one, data science specific one. And yeah, plugging in like Build ML, the company that I sort of work with, we sort of do a little bit more interview specific guides. So we break down questions and projects, essentially everything that you might need to land a new data science role or keep up within data science from a little bit more implementation or studying focus rather than just news focus. So we cover that in Build ML. So yeah, bunch of resources. Happy to send more out for anybody who has any like specific interest they want to follow. Yeah,
Okay, and before we wrap up the session, one last question. So,
for
because
sure.
we are running short of time. So, before we wrap up the session, could you please tell, like, what can be the career trajectory of
Mhm,
someone who is either a fresher or for someone who
mhm,
is making a career transition?
mhm,
uh, and who is learning data science and ML. So, what exactly happens to be the career trajectory? Whether it
mhm,
starts from a data scientist, like a junior one, whether it
mhm,
starts from like being a data analyst, or
mhm,
maybe like Excel analyst or MIS. If you
mhm,
can just arrange the career trajectory in an
mhm,
ascending order, what exactly it looks like? What has been your journey? What has been your career
mhm.
trajectory? Yeah.
Correct. For me, I guess my trajectory might be a little bit outdated. So I worked as a software engineer for 4 years before making
Okay.
the switch to data science, and I did it when I would say it was possible, where managers were willing to hire people into data science roles with just like experience and not data science specific experience. Now we are
Okay.
seeing hiring managers preferring to hire folks into data science who have data science experience.
Sorted.
So in terms of like what a fresher can expect, I would say an average fresher. Let's take the average fresher. I would
Yeah.
say it would be better to go with a data analyst role first, because if you're
Okay.
targeting data science, unless you have like really good projects, or you made your mark in at least like a local level in some way, shape, or form, one like some kind of hackathon, Kaggle Grandmaster, something of that sort, it might be a little bit hard to convert into data science role. Data analyst role, it's a little bit more easier, and you can work as a data analyst for a year, 2 years, and then try and switch into data science. That might be the easiest path. I have seen quite a few folks opt for either a data engineering role or software engineering role first, and then again shift into data science. Cracking into data science directly might be a little bit tricky at the moment if you're a fresher,
Okay.
if you're an athlete fresher. Yeah.
So it's basically starts from being a data analyst.
Yeah.
That makes the whole journey quite easy.
It makes sure that you have a job, which I think is like the key thing for folks, especially in US. If you're coming from India, the key thing is always having a job. So it makes sure that you have a job, you're gaining experience, and you can work towards data science.
Exactly. It's always good to have a job.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So that beautifully answers the question that we've had. So before we wrap up the session, I would like our audience, and Karun, you also know that apart from the video interviews which our audience and the users ask us for, we are also into the events part, which is the workshop part. So we also train people, and because now, as we have been mentioning and we have been having this conversation, it's not just about having knowledge, it's also about getting and staying updated. So Pact also organize events and webinars and conferences as well, and workshops wherein users and anyone can come, join, and I'll be adding one link where people can have a look on the basis of their interest, the events that we organize. And if it resonates with their interest, they can always sign up. You can always be a part of it. So that's something that I'm going to be doing. And apart from that, it has been a wonderful experience, Karun, with you. A
Same
lot
here,
of
same here.
things that you have shared, starting from from the skills point of view. And so, and I've tried to keep the segmentation like very in a very chronological order.
Yep, yep,
First is
yeah.
the relevance of data science, then comes the I would say the skills which are required, then the resume optimization, and then comes the interview. So obviously, it has been a very insightful and a fruitful session for us and for our audience as well. Looking forward to staying in touch, and I'll stay in touch with you. We
Definitely,
have been
definitely.
staying in
Yeah,
touch
same
for
here.
like quite a long time, and thank you so very much for this session. A heartfelt thank you to you, Karun,
Thank you. Thank you for
and
inviting me.
from
Yeah, hoping for more. Yeah,
thank you so
for
definitely.
sure.
I'll stay in touch. Thank you.
Yep.
Have a nice day.
Bye.
Bye bye.